I wanted to make one of those videos where you talk about how you got pregnant, your journey to pregnancy, but when I sat down to do it, it felt really forced and awkward. So I thought it would be more fun to do another Get Ready With Me video where I also talk about my journey to becoming Brooklyn's mama. This is not the color I wanted to start with, but I got nervous. So I guess I'll just add some of this other color and that'll be all good. I wanted to be a mom for a really long time, and I was begging my husband to have a baby before we were even engaged. That traditional stuff was never super important to me. But anyway, I had been taking spironolactone because I had started having cystic breakouts in my 20s, and I got an IUD out at the same time that I started taking it. At that point, I hadn't had a period in about 3 or 4 years, and I started getting 2 periods a month, and I thought that it was just related to getting my IUD out and my body was just re-regulating. And so that went on for a while. From March 2020 until May 2021, I was having 2 periods a month. I knew I wanted to be a mom, and after I got married, I went to the gynecologist and I told her what was going on. I did a lot of tests, lots of blood tests, lots of ultrasounds, and I had some cysts on my ovaries. And because I was having 2 periods a month and because I had these ovarian cysts, she said I had PCOS. So I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, polycystic ovary syndrome in June. Yeah, the end of June or maybe the beginning of July in 2021. To find out that it was going to be hard for me to get pregnant, it was truly like the worst news I could imagine. And I was all alone when I found out. Bobby was out of town. We originally were going to start trying to get pregnant in January 2022. But when we heard that it might take a long time, I wouldn't say we started trying immediately, but we were kind of just like a little loose with it, not trying, not preventing. In September 2021, I decided that I really wanted to kind of take control of my fertility. And so I got a Mira analyzer and I started cycle tracking, and that same month I got pregnant with Brooklyn. 1 round of cycle tracking with the Mira and I got pregnant. I had stopped taking the spironolactone in July or August, and my period had returned to normal. So I had no symptoms of PCOS besides irregular period and cysts in my ovaries, which apparently tons of people have. And that was still the diagnosis that I received. Once I got pregnant and I went in and I said to my doctor, hey, you just told me that it was gonna be really hard for me to get pregnant and you diagnosed me with PCOS. And so I started trying for a baby like 5 months early and got pregnant my first try. What is up? She basically was just like, oops, okay, sorry, I guess you don't have PCOS. So that's what happened. I mean, I'm so happy. I wanted to get pregnant, and we were just waiting for no specific reason. And Brooklyn is literally the best thing that ever happened to me, and he was my 1 try meant to be baby. But it was agonizing thinking that I wasn't gonna be able to conceive easily. And I just feel like a lot of the time your doctor does not really know what they're talking about. And that kind of was the theme throughout my pregnancy too, I would say. I had the easiest pregnancy. I felt amazing. I had never felt so strong and beautiful in my life. And at about 20 weeks, I switched doctors since we moved to Texas from California. My doctor here basically told me If I didn't induce at 39 weeks, then I would probably be pregnant for 42 weeks because every single first-time pregnancy goes late, and that no first-time moms, or barely any first-time moms, ever go into labor on their due date or before their due date. I kind of had the crap scared out of me, to be honest. I was convinced that this baby would never come out. I had had some scans done towards the end of my pregnancy, and I was told I was gonna have a really big baby. My doctor took one look at me and said, I don't care what the scan says, your baby is not gonna be more than 7 pounds. And my baby ended up being 8 pounds, 12 ounces. This is from Nude Envie. I'm just opening it for the first time now. Okay, that's really nice. I also have from them an eyeshadow that I want to try. So I feel like I got a little sidetracked. My doctor said everyone induces at 39 weeks, and that was the best thing to do because if the baby stayed in for more than 40 weeks, he might be too big to come out, even though she had just told me my baby wasn't going to be over 7 pounds. I was honestly scared shitless. I needed that baby to come out at 39 weeks. So starting at 20 weeks, I was banking on a 39-week induction. My pregnancy had an expiration date. I was going to have that baby by June 26th. I absolutely had my heart set on it. And then when I was 36 weeks pregnant, there was a nurse shortage in Austin, and my doctor basically said, every elective induction is canceled, you can't induce anymore. Everything came crashing down for me. I was like suddenly so depressed, needed this baby out. I don't even know why. I was having the greatest pregnancy. I didn't have one complaint. I felt amazing the entire time. I felt like I looked beautiful. I was happy. I was healthy. And yet I was sitting there basically wishing that my blood pressure would raise so that I could be forced to get an induction or move to the top of the list. And it was really unhealthy. And I did basically everything I could think of to induce the baby at home. If the internet said you could do it and it might induce your baby, I did it, except for the castor oil. I didn't get that desperate, but I might have a few days later if I hadn't had Brooklyn. But I ended up going into labor naturally at 39 weeks, 3 days, and I am so happy that I didn't get that induction because I had literally the greatest labor and delivery that anyone could ever hope for. There are a lot of things I would do differently. My second pregnancy, actually. My delivery with Brooklyn was a dream. It was June 27th, the day after my scheduled induction was supposed to be. And I woke up in the morning and I was just having the worst day of my life. Like, I was so depressed that I hadn't been induced. I was crying. I literally remember walking up and down my street sobbing all day. I pumped, I bounced on my ball like a maniac, you know, those birth balls. And then around 6 p.m., my water broke, but I didn't realize that I didn't know if my water had broken. I heard a popping sound and I felt a little bit of a trickle. There wasn't very much water. You know, you see in the movies when someone's water breaks, it's like a serious thing. There's liquid everywhere, pouring all about. That was not what happened to me. And I looked up on the internet, how do you know if your water broke? Basically, the internet told me that if you weren't sure, then you should lay on your couch or on your side for 30 minutes. When you get up, you should see if anything fell out. And so I did that, and it was inconclusive, completely inconclusive. And so I was just kind of like, okay, I don't know what to do. And we live 45 minutes away from the hospital. And also I was feeling some cramps, but I hadn't had any cramps during my pregnancy. I never had one even Braxton Hicks contraction. I honestly felt totally normal the entire time I was pregnant, except I had this like huge belly. I just remember thinking, my husband is gonna be so annoyed with me if we drive 45 minutes to the hospital and they send us home. And I truly thought they were gonna send us home, but these cramps that I was having, I was putting them in the My Contraction Timer app, and the app was basically saying you need to get to the hospital immediately. But I really was in absolutely no pain. Like, I was in mild discomfort to say the most. I said to my husband, okay, I think we need to go to the hospital, but I feel like they're gonna turn us away, but we should be safe and not sorry. So we both took showers. We were taking our time, fully thinking we were gonna get sent home. We went to a grocery store in the opposite direction of the hospital, which again was a 45-minute drive from us, and picked up snacks. My husband was just taking his time in the grocery store. By the time we got to the hospital, it was probably 9 p.m. and I was still chilling. We go into the emergency room and we say, where's the labor and delivery? I think we're gonna have a baby. And they were so nonchalant. I didn't get a wheelchair, I didn't get anything. They just like, I clearly looked totally fine and like I wasn't in labor. So they just pointed us in the direction of an elevator. We were asking around, how do we get to labor and delivery? Finally, we got into triage and they hooked me up to one of those monitors and they said, okay, you are having contractions. They did a swab to see if like there was amniotic fluid, and I guess it was inconclusive at first, and it's probably 9:30 now. They came in to do another swab, and after they left, then my water broke in a dramatic way, like you see in the movies. I couldn't believe that that much liquid had come out of me. That was just like sitting in there. They kept putting doggy pee pads under me, I remember. So at this point, they're like, okay, your water definitely broke. You're definitely staying. Maybe it's 10 p.m. Things started to get real. They had a room ready for me at around, I don't know, 10:30. And at this point, it was starting to hurt. And I remember the nurse in triage told the nurse who came to get me to bring me to the labor room, she said, her demeanor has definitely changed since she got here. An hour ago, I went into the labor room and I walked myself into this labor room. They wanted to put me in a wheelchair. I said, no, I'm totally fine. I'm gonna walk. So I walked there. We get into this room and I'm looking around, and at this point, it gets a little fuzzy, but by 11 o'clock, and I went into the hospital saying I'm not getting an epidural and having a natural birth. By 11 o'clock, I was saying, oh my God, I want this epidural so bad. And so I hadn't signed any of the paperwork. I had been adamant that an epidural was not happening. I am literally like on the bed in doing like cat cow, my hands and knees, just screaming. And so long story short, by the time I got the epidural, it was like 11:30, 11:40. And so when I got to the hospital at 9, I was 2 centimeters dilated. When they checked me for the epidural, like an hour and a half later, I was 7 centimeters dilated. So I had been 2 centimeters dilated literally an hour and a half before, and then I was 7 centimeters dilated, which is a big, big, big jump. And then right after I got the epidural, I said, I need to push. My nurse said, I don't know. So she checked, and at this point I was 9 centimeters dilated. I started pushing at 12:30. I remember feeling his head halfway out, and the nurse saying, okay, you need to stop pushing. You need to wait for the doctor. And that was the worst part of the whole experience. Just like feeling the head halfway out, and then you're just basically sitting there twiddling your thumb until the doctor comes in. Long story short, by 1:02 a.m., he was out. He was perfect. It was great. 10 out of 10 will give birth again, but I actually don't think I'll have another hospital birth. I do want to have a natural birth next time, and I don't think it's going to be at the hospital. Then our Nude Envie. This color is called Belong. I like the top of this because it almost gives like some lip liner vibes. I feel like this is more of kind of like a nudie corally look than I usually do, but I really like it. It feels kind of monochromatic and nice. So I hope that story wasn't like way too all over the place. Still learning YouTube. Okay, well, that's my final makeup look. I hope that you found this video interesting.